Hey y'all, what's up? It's me, V. Welcome or welcome back to Ashes to Ashe, the channel where I discuss how Black folks can transcend and liberate ourselves through the lens of decolonization, afro-pessimism, radical spiritual traditions, Black liberation theology, and challenging the status quo. Check the link in my bio for links in my bio for my Substack, my Letterboxd, my TikTok, my Insta, to schedule tarot reading and to support my work through Venmo and Cashapp. As always, thank you for being here. Today's conversation is the indispensable connection and foundational relationship of white supremacy and Christianity, aka why white supremacy requires Christianity. From a purely academic standpoint, this video is also a result of me reading Your Goo, which I'm loving. Thank you again to the subscriber who suggested it. And finishing chapter 2 on religion and ideology, which has reaffirmed, strengthened, and expanded my understanding of the ways that these two systems, white supremacy and Christianity, work in tandem and support one another. I am also a former Christian who was raised in a Christian household and indoctrinated into Christianity against my will. Similar to the genesis, pun intended, of this religion in the Black community, which is why I think it's so important for us to talk about and challenge how we understand and perceive the religion and what we often believe is an antithetical role that the religion plays in white supremacy, when it's actually the very complete opposite. So this video is going to be somewhat of a reworking of my previous video, Jesus, Scapegoats, and Narcissism, where I discussed the connection that I've made regarding why the worst person you know and or the most immoral, anti-Black, hypocritical, abusive, just waste of space human beings that we know in our culture are always the loudest and most proudest, specifically evangelical Christian. That video was more so focused on the link between the nature of Jesus's role as the divine white scapegoat to what I believe is the inevitable development of personal and thus cultural development of narcissistic personality disorder in those who claim to follow him. So just as a short recap, right? God is an all-powerful, all-knowing, jealous, vengeful, angry God. Let's give you narcissist off the bat. That has chosen a specific people to be the perfect example of a people and a nation. It's giving golden child, okay? His one and only begotten son, Jesus, is the perfect, sinless Son of God. Really quick disclaimer, I'm of the belief that Jesus was not the exception, but the rule, that his identity as both the divine Son of God, emphasis on divine, and the Son of Man is a exemplary of humans in their highest potential to be the creators of their reality, to be both divine and human at the same time, and the ability to manifest their desires as a direct reflection of the Most High. His only son, like I said, Jesus, is the perfect sinless Son of God. He is, as a scapegoat does, not only in a narcissistic dynamic, but also canonically biblically, in the symbolism of the biblical texts, where a scapegoat, the sins of a community, of a nation, are cast upon the scapegoat. The scapegoat is sent to the wilderness and sacrifice executed to absolve that community of their sins. Jesus is held responsible for and sacrificed for the sins of a larger dynamic, larger community, all of humanity. In the particular context of this video, how does this dynamic, this canonical, right, and I guess both a blending of the canonical and contemporary understanding of this biblical story, right, how does this yield the return of narcissistic followers in those that profess, right, this religion? Well, first and foremost, you have a Messiah, right? First and foremost, you have to acknowledge that Jesus is the Messiah. No actions or series of actions or character traits or lifestyle that is required to be immediately saved from eternal damnation and fiery hell, besides believing and saying, I guess out loud or internally at least once, believing that Jesus is the Son of God. In addition to this internal acceptance, there is an agreement amongst Christians that despite God being a vengeful, jealous God, and somehow despite the fact that God in his all-knowing, or his omnipresence, his omnipotence, knew that he was creating an inherently sinful human, an inherently sinful creation, that somehow we need to be saved from that nature. Yeah, we're taught as Christians that we are nothing without God, that we are innately undeserving of his grace, his mercy, and his love, innately sinful in our humanness, despite being created as such. This is vulnerable narcissism in its peak. It is, I am morally superior, I am morally upright. However, deep down, I know that I am innately sinful, that I am innately unworthy, innately undeserving of love and grace, again, from my Creator. In addition to that complex, once you accept Jesus as your Savior, once you become Christ-like, you are then perfect. And again, vulnerable narcissism, right? And so in addition to this deep, innate unworthiness and this perfection that has been gained through the sacrifice of a scapegoat, your only job, again, is to spread the good news. What about this dynamic is foundational to white supremacy? Is it the passivity of the requirements of salvation, the fact that nothing has to be done continually, in a lifestyle or character, on the basis of lifestyle and character, to be an upstanding and moral representation of this right scapegoat savior? Is it the imperialistic mandate to tell people, often against their will, about this white savior that's going to free them from their innate evil humanness? You are assumed, if you are a Christian, that you are good. End of story. That you are moral. You are a moral person. That you are a person of high character and moral standing, despite any and sometimes all the outstanding evidence on the contrary. People, specifically politicians, right, will, when caught, use Christianity and this automatic moral virtue signaling as a defense against their actions. People will literally claim that Christianity invented morality, despite the numerous religions that existed before Christianity, the mythologies that Christianity either completely, outrightly borrowed from or mirrored, or the repeated pattern of this religion being used to dominate, occupy, kill, and subjugate specifically Black and brown folks. In the context of white supremacy, who would the Messiah be? White folks, right? Who do they save? They talk about, I don't know if y'all have ever heard or read, I'll try to include it, The White Man's Burden, the perfect example of this idea of the civilized European who bemoans their responsibility, but somehow yet takes pride in it, to bring civilization, salvation, independence, democracy, freedom, liberty to the lesser, lower, uncivilized Black and Native savages. This is done in true colonistic and imperialistic fashion, right? By any means necessary. If the missionaries could not bring Christianity, if the schools could not bring Christianity, then the military and the reordering, the forceful reordering of a society, of a culture, of a people was made until that colonization, that civilization, that salvation prevailed. White supremacy is such an exemplary example of Christianity in that splitting, in that I'm perfect because I've accepted this Savior that has done nothing wrong, that is blameless, but had to be sacrificed for me, and yet I am riddled with guilt and self-admonishment and self-hatred, right? White supremacy requires that these people, whether they're in Africa, whether they're in Asia, whether they're in Latin America, are forced, required, against the threat of death and conversion, but death and violence, to relinquish their resources, to relinquish their languages, to relinquish their culture. They represent the scapegoat that the almighty white savior comes to save from their own nature. And it is supposed to be a blessing not only to us, right, the people of the global south, for black people, for black and brown people, a blessing to us to accept this colonization, this civilization, this salvation. But it is indicative of the goodness of the white savior, of the white colonizer, of the white Christian missionary, indicative of their goodness, that they would come and bestow upon us these gifts. The splitting, they are the epitome of man. The European is, right, civilized and technologically advanced and fair and beautiful, and the master race. But they have that guilty conscience of raping and murdering and pillaging. So they have to evangelize. They have to bring people into, again, against their will, into this religion that gives them the mandate, the manifest destiny to spread the good news of the Gospels, to spread the good news of not soap, not toilet paper, but of liberty, of justice, of independence. We must believe that not only is this an inconvenient burden unto them and a blessing unto us, but they were not entitled to do it, but they were mandated by God. Claim that white supremacy and white folks and Europeans are the progenitors, the creators, the originators of civilization, of democracy, of goodness or liberty, and then rework and deny history and exactly how the system became the major religion on this planet, despite the fact that there were people and religions and communities and cultures that existed before either, specifically Christianity, was ever invented. To enslave a people physically, first you must start with their mind, if not also their spirit. The Torah says that your spirit should lead your mind, and that your spirit-led mind should lead your body, and that the inverse, your body leading your mind, leading your spirit, is destruction. This is the same religion and world system that has trained the spirits of the masses to be passive, to be morally self-righteous, religiously self-righteous, to not be disturbed spiritually, and to excuse the tangible crimes and human rights violations that same religion has conducted and sponsored in it for its namesake. The same religion and the same system that in tandem have trained the minds of the masses to rationalize and excuse anti-blackness, misogyny, fascism, injustice, the pillaging and abuse of nature and the global south, the theft of wages of the working class, slavery, whether chattel or current, solely so that their bodies, while ingesting and absorbing and holding on to and reproducing these traumas, so that their bodies would, ironically enough, be stuck in limbo, purgatory, if you will, to watch on their phones and to read in the newspaper and to listen on the news and on the radio as genocides and human rights violations and atrocities upon atrocities and upon atrocities happen, not only to people across the world, but to their neighbors and to themselves, with either no idea or so passive that they are unwilling to accept and embody and act on the fact that the biblically accurate version of their Savior crashed out in a temple for less. White supremacy needs Christianity because Christianity puts you at a moral high ground, on a moral high horse, without doing nothing, while believing that not only are you superior than others, not only are you holy and chosen and perfected, but also that you are unworthy and innately evil and sinful, and thus so is everyone around you. And if you can be passive, so can they. And if you're unworthy, so are they. KKK, we're not burning Buddhas. And this is a religion that relies not only on your passivity, not only on your self-righteousness, not only on your deep-seated feelings of inferiority that are given to you and sanctified by somehow your creator, but a willingness to wait as you watch the world burn around you. Then you can enter the pearly gates. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. Take care of one another and each other. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.